You're listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast network.
You're listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast, the most listened to daily Miami Dolphins podcast on the internet. Come on, Dolphins fans. Time to fins up.
All right, Miami! Miami's got the Dolphins, the greatest football team. We take the ball from goal to goal like no one's ever seen. We're in the air, we're on the ground, we're always in control. Hey, when you say Miami, you're talking Super Bowl. 'Cause we're the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins number one. Miami Dolphins.
Hello, Dolphin fans, and welcome to a new episode of Dolphins Talk. I am your host, Marisa Marino, and today I have a very special guest with me who apparently a lot of you know because he's joined our show in the past, but give us a hello to Antwan Staley. Hey, Antwan, how are
Hey,
you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Good. For any of you that don't know Antwan, shame on you, first of all, because he's like all over social and dropping great stuff. But he is a New York Jets beat writer and he is a columnist for the Jets. And he was actually out there today at their OTAs. So I am so excited to have him. Even though he's a friend of the enemy, I'm excited
Well,
to
I
have
used to
him.
cover the Dolphins too. I still have a Dolphins football at my house too, from the team, from what the team gave me after I stopped covering the team. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you're not like 100% pure Jets.
I'm not a Jets fan, so it's not.
You're just covering the Jets. Let's just get
Yeah,
that out of the way.
correct.
Antoine is here to cover the Jets. Well, we love it. I know you used to cover the Dolphins, and thank you for all of your work you did for so many years with that. And now how long have you been with the Jets now?
Going on my third year.
Okay, awesome. Well, we love it. I'm sure you are excited to get into this season. Last season was kind of not the best, and I'm sure everybody's amped up over there. I guess my first question is, what is kind of the feeling over there when you were at the stadium today and you're at the practice facility? What's the vibe like?
Well, I think a lot of the players we talked to Sauce Gardner, who I know Dolphin fans really love a whole lot,
Mhm.
and Aaron Rodgers. Man, they're thinking Super Bowl. They're thinking, you know what, they have this window and opportunity to potentially win the Super Bowl, and they think they have an opportunity to do it this year. I mean, despite the schedule, it's going to be difficult. Obviously, with especially the back half of the schedule. I think they play the Dolphins twice, and
I was going to say that's why.
yeah, and some other teams too. I think they play like 6 or 7 teams in a row that finished at least over 500. So the end of the year, so it's definitely going to be tough. But you look at their defense. I think their defense is going to be good once again. If their offense could just get to a top 10 level, it doesn't even have to be great like the Dolphins offense. But if we can get to a top 10 level with that defense, then I think they have a shot to win a playoff game, and we'll see. But the vibe is definitely. They're optimistic about this upcoming season, which they kind of were last year too before Aaron's injury.
I think they very much were between Hard Knocks and the Monday night display. I'm pretty sure they were ready to rock and roll there. So let's talk right away about Aaron Rodgers. He's out there now. He was at OTAs today. Diana Rossini, who I absolutely love, she posted a quote and she said, "These updates from Florham Park from the Jets reporters are fire emoji, fire emoji, fire emoji, fire emoji. Aaron Rodgers appears to be putting on a show." Tell us a little bit about that. What was Aaron Rodgers up to today?
Well, I mean, first of all, let me just preface it by saying it is OTAs, it's not pads or anything like that. So, no matter what side of the fence you're on, it's still early in the process. But he was 8 for 10 and 11 drills. Did not have an incompletion in 7-on-7 work. But yeah, I thought he was really sharp too. I mean, I thought he was completing passes to Garrett Wilson. Had a nice ball to Alan Lazard, Gibson as well. the second-year player that they picked up, undrafted free agent last year. And yeah, I definitely thought he made some good throws. I mean, he had one bad throw to Garrett Wilson, which was behind him, and Garrett still caught it. So I guess if you, one bad throw, every quarterback's going to have that at some point in time. But, I thought just the fact that we had not seen him throw like that since training camp last year, and especially him coming off a serious injury like that, I think it's a good start for him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it sounds like from what I've seen from what you wrote as well that, again, it is OTAs, but from the beginning showings, it looks like he's healthy and he's obviously standing upright. How does that injury seem to be affecting him at all, or does it seem like good as gold?
He was moving like fluidly, like just like nothing ever happened. I mean, if you saw him and didn't know he had an injury, you probably wouldn't be able to tell. Like he was moving, just in and out of the pocket, throwing the ball with good accuracy there, through a tight window pass to Garrett Wilson, one of the throws too as well. So yeah, I definitely thought he looked very much like the guy that everybody expected him to be last year. So yeah, I think he's as long as he stays healthy and the
Mhm.
offensive line can protect him, which is still a question because depending on who you ask, including myself, I think they have an opportunity at least to make the playoffs.
Okay. Well, fair enough. We'll allow it. We'll allow it.
I said opportunity. I didn't say they were going to. Like
It's an
I'm not.
opportunity.
Yeah, it's still early. It's May. Like I'm not gonna
Yeah.
make a prediction in May, but in August, like we'll see what the team stats up.
Well, I think at the end of the day, I mean, that's what everybody's saying. And can Aaron Rodgers stay healthy this season? What does that protection look like from his O line? What is it looking like from his O line? Do you have any key players that are really standing out to you right now that you feel are ready and up for that task?
Well, I mean, they addressed the line by signing three players, well, acquiring three players. Tyron Smith, who most notably was with the Cowboys for over a decade. They picked up John. They signed John Simpson, who was working off to the side today, just kind of the rehab area that I call it. And then Morgan Moses, who ended up having surgery on his biceps throughout the off season too, as well. So yeah, still some questions there, especially with those guys. They picked up Fashanu from Penn State, which I thought was a really good
I saw
trade
that.
draft pick for them, especially considering Tyron Smith has not played a full entire season since 2015. So yeah, I definitely think they had the foresight to not only improve their offensive line, but they also get some added protection with Fashanu there. So should something happen to Tyron Smith or even Morgan Moses on that right side.
So that was going to be my question, Fashanu. I mean, you guys picked him with your first pick this year, a left tackle. Do you see him being a player that can be a plug and play at some point this season and potentially pick up one of those spots? Or do you really see him learning from the guys this year and kind of developing into next year?
I think a little bit of both. I think he's going to play. I mean, history tells you, especially with Tyron Smith, has not played an entire season since 2015. So if you go by that, he's probably going to play at some point. It's just a matter of what that looks like. I mean, the Jets have been snake bitten by injuries on the offensive line the
Yeah.
last 2 years. I think them and the Dolphins, crazy enough, had the two most offensive line combinations in the NFL last year. The Dolphins second, I believe they had 12, and I think the Jets had 14. So I
Oh
mean,
my
that just goes
goodness.
to show you, like, yeah, you definitely need to have that added bonus. But yeah, I think Fashion is going to play at some point. It's just a matter of what that looks like, whether it be in spot duty or somebody gets hurt, because injuries are going to happen. We all know that.
Mhm.
It's just a matter of what that looks like, and can your team, overcome those injuries.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, and for not for nothing, your team or the Jets team, I'm sorry. The Jets team is one of the older rosters in the NFL. Is that a concern too going into this season, or are you looking at it more like, okay, we've got vets, they know what they're doing. We're not dealing with a bunch of rookies. What's the thoughts there with that?
It's a concern because you're relying on a lot of people who have extensive injury histories to stay healthy. And not only I'm not even just talking about Aaron. I mean, Aaron doesn't really have a substantial injury history. He just had a freak injury, but he is
Mhm.
older. He is 40 years old. Will be 41 in December, so it's something to keep in mind. But yes, Smith is another guy. Talked about Morgan Moses too, Mike Williams, who they also signed. He may not even be ready for training camp. It looks like he wasn't even out there on OTAs today. So yeah, they have some players that they relying on who have had injury history. Elijah Vera Tucker, another person on the offensive line, tore his Achilles last year, the year before that, suffered another season in the injury. So yeah, it's a fair concern with all the veterans because when you have older players
Mhm.
tend to get hurt.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, I mean that's just the nature of the beast. So they hope that they could avoid the injury bug for once. But again, the Jets have been snake bitten by injuries so much they have to plan for it as opposed to just being reactive to it like they have been the last couple of years.
100%. And I think some of that, at least with on the offense, was a little bit addressed from what I saw in the draft. So, you're talking about wide receiver, Garrett Wilson. You talked about Mike Williams aging a little bit, but you guys did pick up Malachi Corey. Now I know there's been some talk about wide receiver 3. You have the Malachi Corey, and then you have Alan Lazard, who we know Aaron Rodgers, that was his dude. He didn't really have the great year last year. Granted, Rodgers wasn't playing. Is there somebody between the two of those, or maybe somebody different that we don't know about that you see going into that wide receiver 3 slot?
I think it'll be one of those two guys. Now they also have Jason Brownlee and Xavier Gibson who can, press for time too. But I think those guys are more wide receiver 4 or 5. I think their wide receiver room is set for the most part, unless an injury were to occur. But yeah, I definitely think you looking at Malachi Corley, somebody they called the Yak King, during the draft and the pre-draft process, who does not go down in the first contact. He really doesn't look like a wide receiver, to be honest.
Well, he used to be a running back, right?
Yeah, he was.
Okay.
Yeah, he's built like a running back, so it's very hard to get him down on the first hit. So I definitely think that'll be an added benefit too. I love them coming out. I thought that might be an option maybe for the Dolphins potentially.
Yeah.
I actually said that, and by hold the Jets ended up picking them up. So yeah, and Alan Lazard, last year was just a wasted year for him, I think, on a lot of different levels. He wasn't happy. Aaron got hurt, and then he didn't necessarily have the chemistry with Zach Wilson and some of the other quarterbacks. So now that he gets Aaron Rodgers back, I think he'll have a much better year, but I'm not necessarily sure how big of a year that's going to be. But he kind of was in the doghouse for a little bit because I think, the coaching staff and just the organization didn't necessarily just not necessarily, he wasn't necessarily doing bad things off the field, but it's just kind of the attitude with handling things there. And that's why you kind of saw him being inactive for a few games last year.
Right. Absolutely. Well, and for anybody tuning in, we are, this is not a Jets podcast, but we are getting the scoop from Antwan Staley because we know we're going to be playing them twice this year and we need to know what we're going up against. I want to know so I can mentally prepare a little bit. So you also drafted 2 running backs this year in the draft. You've got Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis. Of course, you have Breece Hall. Breece Hall, it's going to be your number 1 guy. Did you see anything from today in OTAs? I know it's still really early on to kind of put one of those guys in the front runner position at running back for you all.
Well, I think Allen got a lot of the carries because Breece was not there. Remember, it is optional, so
right.
We didn't get we get the story about how Breece wasn't there. But Allen got a lot of the carries. I think he'll probably be the second running back behind Breece, and then he also you talked about Isaiah Davis there. Izzy Abanikanda, who they drafted last year, is also still there. So it's going to be an interesting room just to kind of see who wins that second job, but. Just kind of judging it by today, I think you saw Allen is definitely the leader in the clubhouse, at least so far, because he got the running back 1 snaps when Breece wasn't there.
Okay. Could you ever see, I don't know if this is a weird question, but Malachi Corey going over to a running back position or strictly staying in wide receiver?
I think they could use him sort of like how 49ers lose Deebo Samuel,
right?
Certain snaps, but I don't think he would be there full time, obviously. But yeah, I definitely think you could see a playbook where they may have him in the backfield just to cause some confusion to the opposing defenses.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. So let's talk about. There's a couple positions that I know that you guys have some gaps in, or maybe looking for some people for. We definitely want to know this for when Tua's throwing the ball. How's that safety position looking?
Very questionable at the moment. Jordan Whitehead ended up going back to Tampa, so that left a little bit of void there. Chuck Clark, who they really did like coming out last year when they traded for him he got added him from the Ravens, but he ended up tearing his ACL and missed the entire season. So they're hoping that he can become the player that they expected him to be last year. Tony Adams is still a young player as well. Ashton Davis is also, he's a little bit more of a veteran, but still doesn't have a ton of playing time there. There's still some questions there on the safety position. I think cornerback is solid. Like I think
You're
that's got, you know,
good.
obviously Sauce Gardner, although despite I know a lot of Dolphin fans talk about how much he holds and whatever, but he's still one of the best cornerbacks in football. So you're not necessarily going to throw his way 25 times a game or whatever. And then DJ Reed is very underrated. Michael Carter II is very good. But yeah, if you're looking for a place to attack, maybe, you know, create some matchups with the, you know, your opposing with your offense, is definitely the safety position with
Mm.
the Jets.
Music to my ears. Maybe it'll take a little bit longer to figure out for them. um, so we know, obviously, last year, first game of the season, Monday night, that turf. Zach Wilson was your backup guy, did not work out. Now you guys have Tyrod Taylor in the room. We all know Tyrod Taylor was a quarterback for the Bills for a few years. You know, I think he's what, 30?
34. He'll
30.
be
Okay,
35 in
okay,
August.
so he's aging up there.
Yeah.
How do the players feel? How do you feel? I mean, it's a real thing you have to talk about. You know, if something does happen to Rodgers, you don't want it to be like, well, this is all of a sudden another, you know, for naught season. Is Tyrod Taylor someone that everybody feels really strongly and really confidently that if something did happen to Aaron, that this could really be their guy to step up into that position?
I mean, I think they're in a better place than what they were a year or 2 years ago. When,
Right.
you know, you had Zach Wilson start out, and then you're doing the musical chairs with, you know, benching them, not benching them. And then last year was supposed to be a redshirt year for Zach. He was supposed to sit back and learn from Aaron. And obviously that didn't happen because of the injury. But yeah, I think you feel a lot more confident in Tyrod Taylor. The only like hesitation I would say is injuries once again, because
Mhm.
he also has an extensive injury history too, which is why I think they ended up taking Jordan Travis, you know, in
Mhm.
the fifth round, because not only do you want to have a developmental quarterback, but if in case something were to happen to Aaron Rodgers, you're going to need a backup quarterback too. And, you know, Jordan Travis could be one hit away from potentially being the starting quarterback. So I think that's why they're probably going to have three quarterbacks on the roster.
Okay. Well, I mean that's good to know. I really didn't pay too much attention to that pickup. Where is that? Where is he from? That
Florida
the
State.
guy, Florida. Okay.
Yeah, he went to Florida State. Yeah, I don't know how
Okay.
much in tune you are with college football, but yeah, Florida
I
State
pay
had a really
attention
good
to the
year.
Hurricanes, so it
Uh,
makes sense that I wouldn't have.
uh,
No.
uh, not,
That's
not that I'm a Florida State guy either. I'm a Florida Gator, but
okay. All right. Well, that's not that great too either. So.
no, they're not good either. So I can't really talk much trash
No,
right
can't
now.
really talk much. Okay, so those are the people. So you guys are opening up your season again on Monday night.
In San Francisco,
Greeny
well,
from
Santa Clara technically.
yeah, well, Greeny from ESPN kind of lost his shit when he saw that you guys were playing again on Monday night. Although you won't be on the artificial turf, so that is the good news. The turf of MetLife, it's an away game. So, how's everyone feeling about another Monday night opener over there in Jets Kingdom?
Hey, I think Aaron Rodgers was asked about this today, and he's excited about it. Obviously, one, because he grew up in the area. He's from the
Right.
Bay Area. I'm sure he'll have friends and family at the game too. And he hates the 49ers, obviously, for a variety of different reasons. One of which, they passed on him to take Alex Smith many, many years ago. And I don't think it's something he's ever forgiven him for, especially considering that was his hometown team. He grew up a Joe Montana fan, went to Cal, from the area. So it's just kind of ironic. The schedule makers, I think, have a sense of humor. So they end up,
Just a little
doing
bit.
this. Yeah, a little. So I figured that played a role not only, in the Jets scheduling, but also Aaron Rodgers, coming back to the Bay Area where he's, well known and playing the team that he, dislikes a lot, and has been a thorn in his side for years.
Mm. Yeah, and it's the old vet versus the Mr. Irrelevant, although I don't think you can really call him that anymore, not once you've had a Super Bowl appearance, but
Yeah.
that should be an interesting Monday night game to go into. What now with the Dolphins, we have two matchups. We actually don't see you guys till, like you
December.
said, later in the season. I believe it's week 14 and week 18 is when we're going to
Right.
see you guys. The first one is a home game, and then we end our season, of course, away at the Jets in the freezing cold, which I'm not super stoked about. But that game coming into Miami, what do you think as far as the Jets? I mean, I know we're super early,
Yeah.
but what do you think are some key things just looking at this Dolphins team? I know you still kind of following along, looking at the strength and weaknesses of the Jets. How do you foresee this matchup coming up into the next season?
I think, you look at the two matchups. I thought they were able to protect Tua for the most part there. I think they kind of got to him the first meeting on Black Friday where Tua, had some errant throws there. But, obviously the Juwan Holland play completely changed the game. And then
Were you there for that?
yeah, I go to all the games. I'm there
Okay.
I'm out
I
for
love
all the
it.
games, home
Yeah.
and away. But yeah, that was a Jets home game, and they just took the air out the building, going into halftime, and that was it after that. And then the second matchup, I mean, the Jets wasn't in that game either, but at least they just got wiped out basically. They couldn't get anything going. Zach Wilson had a concussion. I think it's going to come down to a few things, like which team can protect the opposing quarterback the best. If the Dolphins, we still have some offensive line questions. They can protect too. I think they'll be in good shape. I think the Dolphins offense is going to be really, really good.
Mhm.
Especially with the players that they picked up. I love Wright from Tennessee. I definitely think that's
Oh,
going to be a home run. That's definitely a Mike
we added so
Daniel.
much more speed. It's not like we weren't fast enough. We just needed to add more to the track team.
Exactly. Like they really didn't need another fast guy, but yet, Lord and behold, they got him and HN, and like that's gonna be like a basketball team on grass. Like it's gonna be insane. I think the biggest question I have with the Dolphins is just defensively. They had a lot of turnover there. I know they a lot of people feel like they've upgraded in some positions, and
Mhm.
they might have, but
Mhm.
it's still you never know how this team is going to play until they get on the field. So, and definitely with a new defensive coordinator and Weaver there,
Mhm.
replacing Vic Fangio, which I'm sure is to Javon Holland's pleasure.
Yes, he
But
did mention on Twitter today that that Weaver is a much more friendly, good guy, so quote unquote.
yeah, so I think it's still some questions there with Miami, but I think it's going to be a dogfight in that division, especially with Buffalo there. I still think they're the team to beat, but you're jockeying for one of those 7 playoff spots, and the AFC is tough because you got not only just the division, but I mean you got the AFC South with Houston and Jacksonville, the AFC West. Obviously, the Chiefs still run
Why did
things.
CJ Stroud have to come to the AFC? Like, why does
Exactly.
everybody have to come to the AFC? I don't get it.
And then I hadn't even mentioned this AFC North, where you can make the argument all 4 of those teams could be playoff contenders. So it's gonna be a crazy, crazy season.
I mean, I'm just like, this is insane. And I think you're right. I mean, this year for the AFC East in particular, so the Bills, I mean, they've lost some star players. We know, Stephon Diggs is no longer with the team. Um, I don't know that I don't feel as nervous about the Bills this season as I did last season. Now, don't let me eat my words when I say that, but it's just the feeling that I get. Patriots, we'll see what but not really anything that's on my radar, which I just love to say because it's been so long since that was the case. And
Yes.
so I really do feel like if Aaron Rodgers can stay healthy, as much as I don't love it, the Dolphins and the Jets in this AFC East are kind of the teams to talk about.
I think Buffalo's still there. I mean, you got the best. Well, you got one of the top 3 best quarterbacks in football.
Yeah, say
So
don't say the best. Don't hurt my feelings. Don't say the best.
so I think Patrick Mahomes is the best, but
Yeah.
I think when you're looking at the top 3 quarterbacks, I think it's Allen, Joe Burrow, and definitely Patrick Mahomes there. So
Right.
anytime you have that, that gives you an opportunity. Your window is going to be open. And
Mhm.
I mean, I think the Stephon Diggs thing. I think is you look at it, they wasn't using him a lot last year anyway, especially when Joe Brady took over as offensive coordinator. So I think they're going to pay more of an emphasis on running the football there. I think what really helped them is having that continuity on the offensive line. We talked
Mhm.
about just the turnover with the Dolphins and the Jets. I mean, the Bills had the same offensive line the entire year. I mean, that is like rare for any team. So to have that continuity, and I still think their defense is going to be really, really good. So for me, I think they're still the team to beat. They might win the division with 10 or 11, get 10 or 11 wins, but I still think they're right there along with Miami, along with the Jets too, because I mean, they've run the division the last 4 years. I mean, you can't just, put them to the side, at least not yet anyway.
I'm putting them to the side, Antoine.
So you go right ahead. You go right
I'm
ahead. Like
putting
I'm not.
them up on the shelf in the corner, like nobody, baby in the corner, nobody can see it. Yeah. But I get it. You're being fair, and that's how you should be. The Dolphins passion in me is like, no. So I am curious, Robert Sala, just pivoting real quickly. That has been one topic of conversation for me that I haven't heard a lot of people talk about, but haven't been impressed with him as a head coach. Now I know he didn't have Rodgers last year and before. Like, I get it. He hasn't necessarily had the pieces in a row, but I honestly wasn't even sure if he was going to be here this season. He is here this season. Do you get the sense that the players strongly believe in Saleh and that like this is their head coach, and or is there anything you can tell us about that? What's going on over
Yeah,
there?
right. Aaron Rodgers also talked about this on Tuesday. He basically said, if I don't play the way that I'm supposed to, and the team doesn't perform the way that they're supposed to, everybody's going to be out of here. So they understand what the situation is. They understand this is they have to make the playoffs. They've
Yeah.
not made the playoffs since 2010, the longest drought, not only in the NFL but in professional sports right now, in North American sports, I should say. But they have to make the playoffs. They understand, the ownership is not necessarily happy about that. They're raising ticket prices. They're doing all this stuff to, getting people excited. And if they fall flat on their face and finish under 500 again, somebody has to be to blame. And I'm not saying this it's all been Robert Saleh's fault, because it certainly has not been. I think it's enough blame to go around in a lot of different directions in terms of the Jets. But at the end of the day, it's a results based business, and he's going into his fourth year. It's not too
Mhm.
not too many people that can last 4 years and have a winning record in their first three. So
Mhm.
they have to be able to win this year, especially. I think they have a 2 year window if they want to win the Super Bowl, and not only do that, and then possibly contend in the AFC. They got 2 years, because I don't know how much longer Aaron Rodgers is going to play, and I don't know
That's
how much longer
yeah.
he wants to play. But
It's kind
I
of like
imagine
you're on a ticking clock here with that for sure.
exactly.
Now, what about Nathaniel Hackett?
Well, he's been taking some heat too, because
I didn't need to say much more. You just
no,
kind of
no, because there was a report that the Jets tried to not necessarily replace him, but deviate his play calling duties to somebody else, wanted to hire somebody else.
okay.
And, ultimately they decided not to do that. I think a lot of that had to do with Aaron. I think Aaron is going to be calling the plays for the most part anyway. So
Right.
Hackett may call a play, and then Aaron might change it at the line of scrimmage. So I definitely think getting Aaron back, and he knows the offense just as well as anybody, I think that'll help the Jets in itself. But yeah, I mean, Hackett deserves a lot of criticism with some of the decisions that he made last year, especially it seemed like just, from our vantage point, that they relied on Aaron just to get everything right last year offensively. And then when he went down, there was really no plan in place,
No plan
after that.
B.
And then they went with Zach, and the play calling was just, not good. And, the personnel didn't seem like he understood the personnel that he had until late in the season. And I think now in year two, especially with having Aaron back as another sounding board, then
Mhm.
I think that obviously help him. But yeah, he's definitely under fire as well, and definitely not a fan favorite among Jets fans.
Okay. That's kind of what I figured when I mentioned his name. It hasn't seemed like it's all sunshine and rainbows. So there definitely is that. So just to kind of talk more a little bit about these Dolphins Jets matchups that we're going to have. I mean, again, we don't see you guys till week 14, which is just like crazy to me. And I'm going to be one of those people. I'm normally not, but like I'm just feeling that a little petty today. You guys don't get to come to the Dolphin Stadium until week 14, when like it's not as hot and
That's
it's
fine with
like
me.
so much better. But then we go week 18 up to New York. How
I,
is that fair?
I love it, man. Like, if it was up to me, if I'm making a schedule, I would have had them play the Dolphins week 18 in Miami. Like, one, it means like that's my second home anyway,
Right.
that area. And then two, yeah, you don't want to. I wouldn't want it that high, although I can handle the heat, but I'm not out there playing. Like, those are the
Mhm.
guys that are out there playing too. So
Right.
yeah, I mean, and the Jets requested to have a home game this year. This will be the first year they had a home game to end the season since
Okay.
2016. Like,
Oh,
they've been on the road like every single year, the last game of the season. So they finally decided to request it, and then the NFL granted it to them.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
All right. So what do the player I mean, what do these players do they start thinking about at a certain part of the season? Like, well, I guess since they're not gonna have to really play in the heat, it doesn't even really matter. Never mind. We can
Well, they'll play in Nashville week 2, so that'll be Tennessee isn't necessarily cool either that time of the year,
Right.
especially Nashville. They have a tough schedule to start the year. Like they're on the road their first 2 weeks. They're playing 3 games in a span of less than 3 weeks because they have two road games, and then they have the Patriots on a Thursday night at home. So that's interesting. And then they go to London. They play the Vikings, and then obviously we talked about the Dolphins later on in the season. They play
Mhm.
Buffalo the week before that, the last game of the season in Buffalo. So
Mm.
they're gonna have to deal with some elements too, because you can say whatever you want to about Jersey weather, but the Buffalo weather is totally different, even though it's like 5 hours away. So you never know what is in store there. I'm a little nervous looking at Buffalo, especially close to New Year's Day.
Yeah, no, I mean, anytime I look at Buffalo and it being at their home base, I'm like, yeah, no, thank you. We can just,
I
let's just,
like Buffalo. I would just prefer they went like earlier in the year.
that's fair. I can appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I think we all would love that as the opposing teams to
Somebody
go
has
up
to go
there
there. Yeah, somebody has to go there
a
at some
little bit
point.
earlier in the year. Yeah, no, I totally get that. Okay, so Jets, we talked about Aaron Rodgers, Tyrod Taylor. We've got a lot of new guys. Is there somebody to you that is like really standing out that us as Dolphin fans need to be made aware of? That, okay, we're seeing, it's still early on. I don't know how much you've seen yet, but man, this person is going to be a force to be reckoned with on either side of the ball.
Well, he wasn't there today, but Hassan Reddick, I definitely think was a huge pickup just to add somebody like that. They lost Bryce Huff, who ended up going to the Eagles, but getting Reddick, who's a perennial double-digit sack guy, to go along with a guy like Quentin Williams on the
Hmm.
line, and Jermaine Johnson had a really good year last year too. I think that's going to be huge for the Jets defensive line, especially considering you have anytime you have great corners like they do, they can
Hmm.
just play on the island, and then if they can find a way to get pressure on the quarterback without blitzing, which the Jets don't necessarily like to blitz a whole lot. They just like to send pressure with their front four and hope they can get there. And normally, a lot of times they do. That's kind of why they do it, have the scheme that they do. But I think Reddick definitely help out Quentin, definitely help out Jermaine Johnson because those guys got double team, consistently a lot, especially late last season.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually very surprised with the Dolphins. I watched that Dolphins Jets game with my dad. He came into town to visit and I was so nervous. I'm like, this Jets defense is a force to be reckoned with. Like last season, I was like, they are scary. And I was pretty surprised, like the outcome of the game and how we were able to like maintain and like handle their level of defense and like, take care of Tua. I was pretty shocked. Do you feel like this defense going into this season is a step up from last season's defense, or you think it's about the same, or
Well, they finished top 3 last year despite, the 30 to nothing loss the last time they faced each other. But I think a lot of that had to do when you can't score points and your
Mhm.
defense just keeps having to go back out there on the field, especially in Miami, where it's like hot and you're not necessarily used to that, you're gonna get tired. And I think that's kind of what happened. And then I think, one Achilles heel that the Jets had last year, and I think the Dolphins really exposed them on is stopping the run. I mean, running the ball. The
Right.
Dolphins were able to run the ball, especially with Mostert in both of those games, and
Mhm.
particularly the Black Friday game where I think he had, I forgot the amount of yards that he had, like one something, like he had 100 and some yards, but
1 bajillion?
yeah,
Yeah.
it was a lot. It was a lot of yards, but your defense just gets tired, and then it's hard to stop the run, especially when that happens. So yeah, I think that's an area that if I had one area to be concerned other than the safety position, it would be stopping the run.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's a valid point. Do you think is there a player that you think they're identifying that they can work with to help in that position? Or do you I mean, I guess do you still see them picking up some folks here during this off season?
I don't know if they'll make too many more changes. I think like they're set. They have 90 men on the roster right now, but injuries are going to occur and things like that too. So
Right.
I don't know, especially considering how strapped for money they are right now. I think
Mm.
they're mostly set now. They might make a cosmetic move here and there, but I don't expect them to make too many more major changes. So I think every team's going to have some kind of holes. No
Mhm.
matter what it is, you just have to make sure it's very minimal and very
Mhm.
small. That way, you're able to try to overcome it.
Yeah. All right, fair enough. I like it. So do you foresee what are you I mean, you've seen the schedule. Have you put out any predictions of what you think the Jets are gonna go this season, the record?
I had them in Miami tied with 10 wins, so that's kind of
Okay.
yeah,
So you have them tied with 10 wins.
yeah,
And did you do the Bills too? I'm
yeah.
curious since you did the Bills.
I had them winning division.
Antoine.
I had them winning they're 11. I think the Dolphins and Jets are 10 wins.
Okay.
And the Patriots have like 4 or 5 wins.
Who would have thought we'd see the day that the Patriots, I mean, they just, gosh, they were such a force to be reckoned with for so many years. And to like now when they come up, they're not even relevant. I'm just like, I'm like, I'd never thought this would be possible in my life.
Hey, I saw I mean, when I was a kid, I mean, that's kinda how they were. They were worse than this actually when I was a kid. They were winning like 2 or 3 games a year, and Parcells came in and kinda changed the culture, but, yeah, I mean, it was time for a change. I mean, you say like Belichick, you can say whatever he's one of the best coaches of all time, I won't say the best, but, it just kinda seemed like, the talent on that roster really slipped the last few years, and it was time for a new change there. And they're starting over with Drake May and Gerard Mayo, and I'm curious to see what they look like. I don't expect them to be a factor at all, but
Right.
they do have a good defense, so that will keep them in games consistently. It's just a matter of how many games they actually win.
There you have it. Well, we have a question in the comment section. And folks, if you're watching or people that are watching, go ahead and drop a comment. If you have a comment for Antoine, a question for him that you want answered from the Jets aficionado, go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and put this on here right now. So from MV Roner, he said, is Aaron Rodgers on the last year of his current deal with the Jets? If so, do you think he gets extended?
So it's weird. So he technically is under contract for next year, but the cap number is like near like $60 million or something like that. I forgot the exact number. So they're gonna have to adjust it if he wants to play again, which I'm sure they will. They'll restructure him somehow. But yeah, he's under contract for 2025, but expect some kind of restructure, assuming that he were to come back.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I guess it's one of those things where you're kind of taking it. I mean, you can't get too far ahead of yourself with Aaron Rodgers and, the
When
future.
you're his age, is you're like day by day, year by year. That's basically what it is. It's not you're definitely not looking towards like, 2 or 3 years from now. But yeah, I think he's gonna play 2 more years. That
Okay.
might be my guess.
Okay. That's fair enough. So, he has one more follow-up question. What about an extension beyond 2025?
I guess we'll see. We'll see. Like at that point, like again, he'll be 41 in December. So I guess 2025, yeah, he'd be good to turn 42. So it just depends on how he's playing, and it has the same coaching staff here, and what happens in 2024. If the Jets, have a losing season, then they're probably going to make wholesale changes anyway. He's probably not going to be with the
Mm,
Jets anyway. So
yeah.
I think this year will be key determine what happens in 2025.
Yeah, he might have to go into his darkness retreat again and really ponder whether or not he wants to do 2025. That
He
might.
said he's not going to do that again, but yeah, I wouldn't have done it in the first place because I would have liked to have some kind of facility to use the bathroom on a consistent basis, but it's neither here or there.
Leave it to Aaron Rodgers. Do you think now that he's getting back into game mode and, playing football again and not being sidelined with an injury, do you think we're going to see him less on interviews and with Pat McAfee and all that, or you think that's going to keep on rolling?
Gotta keep going. I mean, he did it. He did the Matt McAfee show when he was in Green Bay too, when he was
Yeah.
playing. So I imagine he's still gonna do that. I just think this whole season you've probably seen him a little bit less because he's been rehabbing, and I think he kind of wanted to get away. Although he's been on other shows, political wise, without getting into it. But yeah, he's been doing his thing on there. But and then he had a thought about running for being a vice presidential candidate, running mate too. So
Okay, how serious was that? I need to know. Like,
it was very serious. He's basically faced with a decision. I wrote about that today. Either he can retire and be a vice presidential candidate, or continue playing. And he decided he wanted to keep playing.
But, like, what were his odds, do you think? I mean, like, how serious is it like, you think, like, it was really, like, he was really into it? Because you see stuff like that and you're like, "Yeah, maybe," but, like, really? I mean, how did you feel about it?
I think he thought about it, but I think, football was the determining factor whether he didn't want to go out like how he went out last year.
Right.
I think
Yeah.
had he had a good season and the Jets might have, lost in the AFC Championship or something like that, then I think he might have thought about it a little bit more. But the fact that he came off a major injury, 4 plays into the debut of his Jets career, and he didn't want his career to end up like that. So I think
Oh
that's
my
probably
goodness.
determined
Well, I
everything.
am very thankful that he's not. We won't get too political, but I'm glad Aaron's going to be playing ball on the field. So we have a question here from Katie. Who are some Jet sleepers on offense, defense that Miami needs to be worried about this year?
I think you look at sleepers. I mean, you look at Tyler Conklin. I thought he was solid for him last year. Somebody that can move the chains there. Not necessarily going to score a lot of
Do
touchdowns
you
or
think they'll
get a
use
lot
the
of
tight end? I mean,
yeah.
okay,
Yeah, they do a lot of 12 personnel. So
okay.
I think you'll see him and Jeremy Ruckert, who they drafted out of Ohio State a couple of years ago in 2022. They'll use a lot of him. Probably have 2 wide receivers at times as well. Because, also having that 12 personnel helps out with run protection too. So I definitely think, and pass protection. So I think you'll see a lot of that too.
Okay. So he's the one person, the tight end that you think we need to be looking out for.
Yeah,
And we
I definitely would.
And we have one of our own, Jonnu Smith. You guys need to be watch out for him.
I like John Smith. I thought that was a solid addition for the Dolphins, and he's going back home. Like he's
Yeah.
went to FIU, and yeah, I think it'll be and obviously not going to be like a George Kittle with the 49ers, but he's somebody
Well,
that's solid and
yeah.
consistent.
No, I completely agree. Now I have to ask, just because you were with Dolphins for so long, what did you think of the OBJ signing?
I thought it was, on par. I thought, I knew they were going to dress the wide receiver, get a wide receiver, and I thought it might be during the draft necessarily, but to get somebody like him to go along with obviously Waddle and Tyreek Hill, I think it's good. I mean, you got a veteran. You don't have to. He's not going to be. You don't need him to be old school OBJ to getting 100 catches a year, but if he can get like 45, 50 catches potentially in that offense,
Mhm.
but I think he could it's definitely going to take some pressure off a lot of the other guys. And I think having a guy like that with Tua can give him a good security blanket too, as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to see and I love that the Dolphins have picked up so many veteran players that are really going to be able to really take these rookies under their wing. I've talked about it before, but Jordan Poyer
Yeah,
coming from the Bills is huge for our safety room. You've got Teron Armstead that's going to be, hanging out with Chop Robinson. I mean, you've got so many different guys
yeah.
that are going to
Patrick
be
Hall, who I
Patrick
imagine
Hall.
he takes some under his wing as
That's what
well.
I meant. Yes,
Yeah, yeah.
wrong name.
Okay. Okay. Well, I do like Chop Robinson too. I know a lot of people. It was a lot of criticism with the Dolphins draft, but I actually thought they did a good job. I mean, they picked up guys that do have some potential there. They have some things they need to work out, but Chop Robinson could be a stud, and I thought that was definitely an addition they needed, especially considering Phillips and Chubb coming off major injuries.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. I mean, with them doing that, and honestly, it kind of makes me a little bit glad in a way. If there's a silver lining to us playing you guys in the frigid cold week 18, is that week 14 and 18 when we play you guys. I mean, Jalen Phillips has alluded to the fact that he's coming back like beginning of the season. Bradley Chubb, I don't foresee that happening for quite a few weeks in, but hopefully by then these guys, not hopefully, they should be really reared up and ready to go for our two showings against you guys. So I feel like that's definitely a silver lining if you can find one in having to play in whatever temperature that it's going to be up in up in New York.
I'll say this: I think the Dolphins get a unfair criticism at times because a lot of people think they're a finesse team. I think they choose to be at times, but I think they can be a physical team. They have running backs that they can move the change, and obviously Mostert, HN. Now they got right. I think they're going to put more emphasis on running the football, and I think you have to, especially
Mhm.
when you're playing in weather like Kansas City, whereas you know feels like Antarctica out there. But yeah, you have to, all joking aside, like you have to be able to run the football effectively, especially in cold weather, if you're
Hmm.
going to be on the road and have success in the playoffs. And I think the Dolphins are starting to figure that out.
Yeah, I think we learned that a little bit last year in that KC game. If we didn't learn it, it really solidified that for us, that
Yeah,
playoff kick.
you can't just, no matter what anybody thinks about Tua, like I don't think it's necessarily fair to put all everything on him. Like a
Mhm.
lot of that, has to be spread around. They have to have a better game plan, especially when you're, in frigid temperatures like that.
I mean, yeah, that was unprecedented weather. I mean,
That's
that
what I'm
was
saying. It was
that
like
was insane.
Antarctica.
Yeah, it really was. I mean, I don't think you could pay me any amount of money. Like the fans that went, like I salute you because like there's just no way I'm getting frostbite to watch my team. I love you. I will watch you from the comfort of my warm couch.
I know a lot of I know all the reporters down there from Miami, but yeah, I still friends with a lot of them, and yeah, it did not look pleasant at all. Like I I would have been like I would have been dead somewhere probably.
We would both be dead. I would try to
Yeah,
help you and I die right
yeah,
next to you.
like
So
I can't even imagine like just the layers I would have to put on just to go out there.
no, it's absolutely insane. We do have one fan that wants to ask you a dolphin question, but
Sure.
he said there's a rumor out there about Ryan Tannehill coming back to the Dolphins.
I saw the CBS report. They had mentioned that was a good fit for the Dolphins. I don't know if it is. Like I think they're satisfied with Mike White and Skylar Thompson, but I don't think it would be the worst thing in the world. I mean, Tannehill is obviously familiar with the area.
Mhm.
Would be a solid backup if something were to happen to Tua there, and yeah, obviously he's played in meaningful games. I mean, he's not that far removed from being a starter. I mean, he was a starter last year until he got hurt and Will Levis took over. So
Yeah,
if they wanted to
we
get,
know that Will Levis took over.
yeah, oh yeah, I forgot about that actually that Monday night game. But
Yeah.
yeah, if you want to, if they feel like they can make an upgrade, then I don't think it would be a bad idea. But I just feel like they're probably happy where they are at least at the moment.
Yeah, that's fair. I saw Mike White out there today, throwing the ball around and
Yeah, he took most of the reps because I think Tua was not present. Although Dolphin fans kept telling everybody how the reporters were lying about him being at
it was a
OTA.
charity golf event.
See, I mean, it's optional. It's
I
optional.
mean, I'm so over it. Like the players, just like I don't know how people do this every day with like the talk. I mean, the players are going to do what they're going to do, but I guess sometimes people need stuff to do in the off season and
Yeah,
argue about.
that's why I say it's optional. So yeah, you don't have to be there every day. Although
Right.
it's one of those things where you need to be. If you're not there, you need to have a good reason not to be there. Put it that
Right. No, I totally agree with that. Well, I am so thankful that you came on the show and I've interacted with you a bit on social and so it's nice to talk to you via face to face via StreamYard whatever we're using. But any last thoughts on the Jets season or the Dolphins that you want any parting words of wisdom you have for us?
I just, like I said, I just think it's going to be a really, really fun season for like the Bills, Dolphins, and Jets because I think it's gonna, like I said, it's gonna be a dogfight
Yeah.
every single week there between the two teams. I'm curious to see, how Miami plays Buffalo week 2. We obviously know a lot of Bills fans were complaining about the hot weather, although it'll be a night game, but it still be really warm
Yeah,
down
I
there
mean,
in
the
South Florida.
moonlight's gonna be shining on them and making them hot, I'm
It's still
sure.
humid out there. Trust me. I
Yeah,
lived down there for 10, 11 years. So I know
yeah.
it's especially that time of the year, it's still gonna be real sticky. But yeah, it should be a lot of fun.
Awesome. So tell people, if you don't mind, for people that are listening, where they can find you. So if they want to catch up on what's going on with the Jets, how do they find you?
Well, I talk about all NFL stuff. So, but yeah, you can find me at Antwan Staley across the board, all social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff, and also find my work at the Daily News too, as well. Which I mostly write Jet stuff, but I also do general NFL stuff every now and then too, and including the Dolphins. I wrote an article about two earlier this off season, so you can check out my work there. Also, I'm covering hockey at the moment, so the Rangers are hosting the Florida Panthers on Wednesday night, so that'll be an interesting series to a lot of people down there. And Dolphins,
That so surprisingly, there's a lot of, or not a lot, but there's quite a few Rangers fans that are Dolphin fans, and I'm like, I mean, I guess transplant. I don't know, but it's very interesting to see the New York side of Dolphin fans come out to pledge their allegiance to the New York Rangers. So I'm interested to see how that pans out for sure.
Yeah, that's gonna be a good series. So yeah, it's kind of best of my two worlds coming together because I used to cover the Florida Panthers as well. So I'm curious. I'm definitely excited about the series starting up on Wednesday.
Awesome. So you'll be writing about that and putting that up on your on the New York. It's New York Daily News.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, the Daily News. Yeah, it'll be out in the newspaper and the website.
The newspaper. I love it. I miss the days of the newspaper coming to my house and my dad opening the sports section. And is it still really big, the newspaper up in New York?
Not as big, but it's still like a lot of pages too. I still
Yeah.
get magazines, so I'm really I'm younger. I mean, I'm kind of a old soul. Let's
Okay.
put it that way.
So you must have been real sad when Sports Illustrated said they were going to stop.
Yeah, I mean a little bit, yeah, but you can kind of see it, especially when I thought that years ago when they got bought out and everything like that. But yeah, I'm not totally surprised by that.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, everyone, thank you so much for joining. Please make sure if you're watching on YouTube to drop us a like, subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out. We'd really appreciate it. Again, I'm Marissa Marino. You can find me on all social medias minus Instagram at must be Marissa 87 with one S. That's must be Marissa 87 with one S. Again, Antwan, thank you so much for your time. I hope that maybe we can, in after week 14, maybe we can have you on again and talk about the outcome of that game.
Yeah, you know how to find me, so yeah, you could definitely have me on anytime.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I hope everyone has a great night and we'll talk with everyone soon. Fins up.